Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Entrepreneurs Being More. I'm going to take as little time as possible here at the front. We are focusing on getting results in our Nikken business, and that's something we always look for in life, are results that matter most to us, and that's what we're going to be focused on this evening. And we're still looking at this area, this idea of income and creating specific results in our business via income. And Ben Woodward has been helping us looking at the specific actions, those things we need to do with moving people towards either being a retail customer, being a consultant part of Nikken, working on recruitment and rank advancement to make that happen. And we've been focusing on contacting, finding and inviting people, setting up appointments, giving people presentations, things like ABCs, Zoom, or live meetings. And tonight we're going to move forward towards the process of actually creating our group, whether it's a customer group, a consultant group, a combination of both, probably ideally, and some of the things that are important to happen in that process. So we'll finish up the idea of presenting presentations and move into the next steps, follow-ups, and then helping people move towards making a choice, making a decision about becoming a customer, becoming a consultant, part of the global wellness community, whatever that might be. So Ben, thank you for joining us this evening again.
Thank you, absolutely my pleasure. I enjoy these meetings every week. I look forward to them. So can I ask you to give me the ability to share screen? Oh, I can do that already. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen today. So as Jeff was talking, we're going to be talking, as he mentioned, we're going to be talking today about follow-up, and I'm going to delve into what that looks like, specifically some of the activities that we need to prepare for in order to follow up effectively. Let me just jump in and share my screen here and get this up and going. 1 second. There we go. Can you see my screen? Excellent. So we're going to talk today about follow-up strategy, and maybe this might be one of these subjects where we break it down a little more into multiple sessions, because this is a really fundamental activity, and it's good to get the framework of what's involved and then break it down and distill it down into actionable items where we can do some practice and so on. I want to just start by showing you this, just by way of, again, refreshing our memory on the progressive journey that people go on when we partner with them, or when we reach out to them as a potential customer or a potential business partner. Look at this progression of a sale here. You got the prospect at the top left, and then the customer down the bottom right. This is the journey that they go on. It probably should go from left to right and go ascending versus descending, but there we go. But look at that, contact number 1, 43% of people have given up after the first contact. Number 2, 68% of people have given up by the second contact. By the third contact, 80% of people have given up their engagement and follow-up activities with their prospects. What a tragedy that is. Now, don't you think one of the hardest parts of our job is actually finding or building a dynamic contact list of new people, yeah, where we can contact, because we know what to say perhaps when we're meeting them, when we're inviting them to ABCs, we've got that strategy fleshed out. There's so much work that goes into actually acquiring a new person, and yet so much effort is neglected and so much energy is lost because people quit too soon in the process. Number 4, the low-hanging fruit. But then look at number 5. This is where you really get to know your prospects. Number 6, or contact number 6. You're the only one to make it to the 6 contacts. Most people have quit by now. And then number 7, I like this. By the time you're contacting them for the 7th time, you now own mindshare as the default choice when the prospect is ready. I like that. I like that a lot. A lot of the competition is now becoming irrelevant by that point. So what this does is it makes it really important for us to understand, what do we do when we follow up? Because it's not a single jump, is it? To go from the first contact through to the customer. or the business partner. If there are all of these contacts in between, all of these times or moments or opportunities for us to follow up, then that really requires preparation, doesn't it? Planning. There's that old saying, preparation precedeth power. And that is very, very true when it comes to effective follow-up. Preparation truly precedeth power. And if you want to have powerful effects in your business, then this is certainly something that we need to spend time on. When we talked about inviting, I emphasized these 3 points in the invitation process. I just want to recap on that, and then we'll go into the steps for effective follow-up. When we're inviting someone to make a commitment, we're explaining to them that in the process, when they've accepted that invitation, that we want to follow up. And we're doing this because we care. We want to know what their experience was. We want to have a conversation on that. We plan the follow-up visit, and then we compliment and encourage them. And oh, sorry, 1 second, I'll push the wrong button there. So that is all built into the framework of the invitation. Now it comes time to where we're wanting to actually do the follow-up work. This is what I'm going to share with you tonight, is an 8-step process to helping us have effective, meaningful follow-up. Now, I've put here deliberately, and I want to emphasize what I put here as a subheading, make each interaction a value add. This is really important. I'm going to just stop my screen sharing for just a second and talk about this. Make every interaction a value add. If we've got all of these different touch points where we're wanting to follow up and have a meaningful engagement, we all know in today's world, we are competing in every direction for people's time and attention, aren't we? We're in the information age, and that means we've got information overload. So we know that content is important as we're sharing effective email communication or video links or books to read or messages to watch or engage in. All of that stuff's important. It's got to be a value add. I've got a friend of mine who's a brand manager, and he says there are 2 words that we always emphasize as we're building our brands in terms of content and communication. When we're outbound communicating with our clients or helping them to connect with their clients, he says these 2 words are surprise and delight. He said, we need to make sure that our content surprises and delights them. Those are big words. Write them down. When you're reaching out and follow up, be it through an email, be it through a text, be it through a phone call, be it through a personal visit, when you're having all of that follow-up engagement and activity, does your time with them surprise and delight them? Or are you nagging? Are you chasing up an activity? Are you simply just kind of hounding them a little bit? Because if that's the approach that we take, where we only show interest if they're going to do something, and then we follow up just to really kind of keep on top of a behavior, and we're kind of nagging in that regard. Did you do this? Did you do that? How was it? And we're kind of, it's more interrogation and 20 questions versus genuine care and concern. Then what starts to happen as the process as a consequence of that type of follow-up? I'll tell you what happens. They start to screen you out, don't they? They start to filter you out and not respond so enthusiastically to your messages. They don't respond so quickly. And then next thing you know, they might not even be responding at all. Yeah, we don't want to have that happen. How do we counter that? We surprise and delight them. Now, to surprise and delight takes a lot of preparation, doesn't it? You know, we talked before on my last couple of Tuesday calls about how to tell our story effectively. And one of the key things that we emphasized there was if we're going to have emotional impact, we really need to prepare. We don't shoot from the hip. Our message and our story doesn't just roll off our tongues in an impulsive kind of vernacular kind of diarrhea. It doesn't just spew out. Yeah, we have a different way. We articulate, we prepare, we craft, we practice, we rehearse, we personalize. And this is so true when it comes to effective follow-up. So I'm going to jump back to these slides again, and we'll go through these points because these are just so important. Okay, so first thing we want to do is identify the level of interest that we're getting back from the prospect. This is a really important behavior. What we're doing when we're following up is not just finding out if they kept the commitment, We're also watching, observing, listening, asking questions to find out exactly how they felt. We don't want to just understand what they thought. We want to understand how they feel. What are their feelings about this? What are their interest levels? Again, our objective is to meet a person's needs, to solve a problem, to resolve a concern, to provide a solution to a challenge that they're facing. And we can never provide the solution, even when we have it, if they don't want it. So we really need to find out at the front end, this first initial phase of follow-up is inquiry. It's questions, it's understanding, it's listening, it's empathizing, it's sympathizing, it's encouraging, it's all of those types of things. So it's really an emotional journey where we get to, in that process, first step, discover their feelings. That's what we want to do. How do we do that? By asking good questions. Okay. And good questions are open-ended questions. They don't require a yes or no answer. Did you like what you read? Yes. Excellent. Where was that? I found, I'm not sure about you, but I found when I'm asking my children how their day at school went, I cannot say, how was school today? Because they'll always just go, good. Okay, I learned nothing. So I end up saying, tell me about your day. It's the same principle here. So rather than saying, what did you think? Tell me what your feelings were when you watched this, when you listened to this podcast, when you watched this video. Tell me how it made you feel. Was there anything in particular that stood out? What was it? Talk to me about that. Why did that stand out to you? Asking encouraging questions to get conversation. That's really important. What really lies at the foundation of effective follow-up is genuine care. I have found when I truly care for the person I'm talking to, that naturally prompts the questions to ask. Yeah. If I'm really concerned, I ask the right questions, but they're prompted by love. And the nice thing is, boldness never becomes overbearance when we're motivated by that love. Yeah, sometimes we worry, don't we? Am I going to be overbearing? Am I going to be pushy or manipulative? If you're motivated by genuine sincerity and care and concern for them, they'll always feel that. They'll always feel it. Yeah, so let that feeling come across. Yeah, and that's absolutely fine. Okay, back to the slideshow here. Okay, number 2, build and manage your contact list. This is, again, something really, really important. I might just, maybe you want to take a screenshot of this. I might just keep it up now so you can have a quick look. I'm going to pull it down so I can talk to you. I like seeing your faces. So one second. So number 2, build and manage your contact list. That, again, is something really, really important, because what we're doing with our contact list is not simply writing down a list of names of people that we know, like, or trust, or are acquainted with. A contact list is not a list of names and phone numbers or names and email addresses. It's more than that. Tell me about your contact list. How do you structure it? How do you organize it? Yes, we can turn around and say, oh, I've got hundreds of names right here and all the contact details right there on my phone, nice and easy. Okay, you've got to build that into some type of a spreadsheet or program that you can use where it tracks their behavior and your interaction with them. Okay, we can have simple tools in our contact list on our phones. For example, I can have a particular emoji that I like to use to identify a particular group or demographic of people, so that next to their name or underneath the name, when it says like their company or business, for example, when you're putting their details in, you can put a little chili pepper as an emoji. And this one is a hot lead. Yeah. Or maybe you might have a little water icon. You know, you get the drips of water, and that's a water customer. Yeah. And you can have other things like that. Or you can have someone that is cold, you know, like the shivering emoji. It's a cold lead, right? But every time you type in that emoji in your contact list, it pulls up all those people according to that demographic. Yeah. And now you can say, I'm going to send out a mass communication to all of these people, and I know who I'm talking to. And you can customize your responses a little bit. So there's little things like that that you can do with your phone that is helpful, but that in itself is not enough. What we also need is a spreadsheet that we can keep that allows us to track our engagement and responses or interactions with people. So you have their names, you have their phone numbers, you have their email addresses. If there's other useful information like birth dates, right, depending on how well you know them, there might be little pieces of information that are really helpful for you to have that allow you the chance to have some really customized, personalized, super friendly touch points. Hey, maybe when you're on Facebook, you see, oh, they've got their wedding anniversary on this date. Make a note of it in your contact list so you can get ahead of the curve and wish them a happy anniversary. Or it's their birthday, or it's a special occasion, whatever it might be. Find out, write down and document in your spreadsheet those helpful pieces of information that get you to know about the person. And then track, when did I speak to them last? When was the time for follow-up? Did they keep the commitment? Did they not? What was the method of communication that they prefer best? Do they prefer email? Do they prefer text? Do they prefer WhatsApp? Do they prefer Facebook Messenger? Do they prefer phone call? And you identify this is their preferred method of communication. You can find that out in a simple question, just by saying something like, hey, I'm really excited to see what you think of that video that I sent over. I'm mindful of just how precious everyone's time is today. And I certainly don't want to waste yours because I know how valuable and precious it is. What's the method of communication that you prefer the most? Is it email? Is it WhatsApp? Is it Messenger? Is it text? Let me know, because whatever method works best for you, I'm happy to engage in that channel for you. And then they'll say, oh, okay, just text me. That'd be great. Okay, cool. I'll shoot you a text. And from there, you can elaborate. And then when you text, if they go, hey, it was really good. Hey, I'd love to learn more. It's going to take ages chatting backwards and forwards on a text. Would you mind if I gave you a quick call? When would you be free? And then you can elevate it to the next level of communication and the next touch point. But we want to be able to document all of that stuff so that we can customize and personalize our follow-up in a meaningful way. Okay, so I'm going to go back now to number one. We've identified their level of interest by asking questions. We're understanding where they're at in the journey. That helps us to know, of course, what we share with them next in the next follow-up visit. Is it important if they've watched a video that they want to listen to a podcast next? Maybe you might want to send them a product for them to try and let them know what they, find out what they think of a particular product. There might be a number of different things, but you're going to get a feel for that according to the level of interest that they express in the first commitment that they kept. Okay. Now, this is where it starts to get potentially a little time consuming in your preparation. But I want to emphasize this. When you invest the time up front in preparing and building out your plans, once you've done that, that can transfer across a whole bunch of different people, and it becomes so much more effective with your use of time down the road. Otherwise, you're going to be constantly shooting from the hip. You're going to be constantly forgetting. You're going to be constantly missing the right moment. You're going to be constantly saying the right thing, saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, missing the moment. And you'll be going, man, this is just so difficult. I don't understand. And you're putting all of that time in, and you'll be treading water or going nowhere. So putting that time in up front to get your content together and say, these are my favorite videos, when someone's really interested, when they're mildly interested, when they're cold and we're trying to warm them up. These are my favorite podcasts. These are my favorite books. These are on this subject, that subject, this subject, that subject. And you start to build your own library so that when you get a response, you can look at that list of tools, and that might be a second spreadsheet for you, your follow-up, and you can categorize it: hot, warm, cold, product, business, product category. Yeah. And you can go through and say, here are all the different resources that I can utilize and pick from, and go, this might be something really nice. And amongst all of those different activities and those different tools, you should always include your personal touch contact points. Yeah. Where you're not just making it all about business in every follow-up or every interaction. You got to make sure you're building relationships as well, getting to know them, sharing other things, and reaching out and just developing that relationship and nurturing it. Yeah. And one of the ways that you can do that is by being actively engaged in interaction in your social media. Maybe you see them post something, interact. Don't just be preoccupied with people liking and commenting on your posts. You get out into other people's posts that you're working with, you like and comment and engage there. And that again can elevate from, hey, I really like that. I love what you said in this post. So true. I really believe that. You're building some common beliefs. That can be a great touch point in the follow-up process. But in addition to that, it can also give you opportunities to reach out privately. I'll give you an example of a follow-up that I had with a contact of mine from Facebook. We'd chatted backwards and forwards and liked and commented on each other's posts. I've never met him, right? He's a friend of mine that I've never met, but we're friends on Facebook. We're Facebook friends. And what happened was he put up a slightly despairing comment one day, right? He was fed up with his job and he was feeling frustrated. I think his boss had given him a hard time. He works in art sales. So he works in an art gallery selling high-end art, right? And great job. But he's frustrated, he's ambitious, but he also struggles sometimes with depression and anxiety, and it causes him some pain. And so he posted a despairing comment one day. And so I private messaged him, said, hey, how you doing? I saw your post. You doing all right? What's going on? What's happening? And just gave him a chance to respond. He ended up responding. And we were talking backwards and forwards one evening as a consequence of this. And then he said, and then he reached out to me, which was great. He goes, actually, it'd be easier if we chatted. Would you mind? We'd never spoken before. Like I said, he was a friend that would just somehow made connections on Facebook. Would you mind if we spoke directly? Because this would be helpful if we had a conversation. And we ended up speaking for like 30 minutes that evening. And since then, we've got a very deep, meaningful relationship of trust. And on a regular basis, he comes to me and says, Ben, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think about that? And I totally respect it. And as a consequence, I engage and participate more with him on social media because I feel I want to show him my support and my confidence in him as he makes his decisions and moves forward with his life. So understand the follow-up is important, not just in the formal structures of a follow-up strategy, but you've got to build into that process the chance to engage in social media where you're interacting and participating, because people give you so much insight into their lives on their social media, don't they? I mean, we live in a world where people will show you what they had for breakfast nowadays, right? We don't need all that stuff, but they show it in abundance, right? So with that at our disposal, we've got to use it and use it well to build the rapport, build trust, show interest, and make those connections. And that's a great way to make those 7 contact points meaningful and valuable. It's not always about what you share and post and how many people like and comment on your posts. It's what you're doing with your key people. Have a hot list. And this is something that a friend of mine who's a digital marketing specialist said to me today. She said, you need to, in building a strong digital marketing strategy, and this applies to follow-up, she said, you've got to build your hot list. Who is your hot list that you want to go out to and engage with on social media, where you're going to their accounts, you're liking, you're commenting, you're engaging with them so that you become top of mind to them on a regular basis. And you need to make sure that you plan time each week to go to your hot list on their social media and engage with them. She said that's more effective than simply getting the likes and comments sometimes on your own platform. Okay, so interesting point to identify there. Okay, so I've talked about number 3 a little bit already. Number 3 was to create a roadmap to connect with prospects on a schedule. We talked about that already. So on your contact list, you've got your contact list here. You've got it coded perhaps with your emojis on your mobile phone. But in addition to that, you've got a spreadsheet that tracks the interactions that you had, the invitations that were extended, when they were extended, what you're doing next, what the follow-up was, what the response was, and you can measure it all. And it's got little bits of information there that help you understand the person or act as a refresher for you to remind you of key things that will be helpful to make a personal contact. In addition to that, you've got a separate spreadsheet that you want to develop. And that spreadsheet gives you your list of tools by category, by subject, and by interest level. And I think that is really powerful. That helps you then to construct a follow-up strategy that is meaningful, timely, and relevant. And again, put at the top of that spreadsheet those two words, surprise and delight. Yeah, surprise and delight. Does my content surprise and delight them? You want to make sure that it does. And like I said, sometimes that content might just be one of those phone calls as a result of a social media interaction where it's not a podcast, it's not a video, it's not an ABC, and it's not a live event like we've talked about before. It might just be, hey, how you doing? I was thinking about you today. I saw this and it made me think of you. What are you up to? How's life? Talk to me. And you just have meaningful, engaging conversation. Yeah, that's so important. Please, please, please build that into your follow-up strategies. Okay, meaningful engagement and conversation. Point number 4, create follow-up sequences to establish and build connections. This kind of ties in a little bit with point number 3. You've got your list of tools, you've categorized them by genre, by need, by subject, for example. Maybe build a flow chart from that where you say, if they like this and they responded well here, maybe you have that little bit of a flow chart where you go contact 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this is where I'm expecting now to have an invitation that leads to, will you join the business? Will you partner up? Okay, but you've taken them on a journey. We need to understand that going from first contact to joining the business is a journey. There are steps in between. They don't leap from one to the next. It's stepping stones across the pond. And you don't want people to fall into the water and lose them because you didn't put enough stepping stones in their path. So you want to identify that path, build it out, and make it personal, make it friendly, make it surprising, delightful. Yeah. So that when you, but the nice thing about that is it also works as a meaningful trigger for you to know that when you're having these different interactions, at certain points along the way, you've got in the back of your mind, I need to invite them to do something next. Yeah. Because sometimes we're really good at talking about what we love. We're not always as good at inviting people to take an action and do something about it. So we go, oh, I was really good. I was talking all about Nikken today. Did you invite anyone to engage with it in any way? Maybe not, right? So typically they will wait to be asked. So we need to make sure when you create that workflow for them or that life cycle and you build it out, it works as a meaningful reminder for you to step it up along the way. Yeah. So that they're getting closer and closer to making those bigger decisions, but they're making small decisions along the way. And that's important. Okay. So next points, I'll bring this up on the screen and then we'll, I'll wrap these up real quick. One sec. Okay. So here we go. Next points, you want to record your responses. I've talked about this point already in building and maintaining the contact list. Okay. So you want to make sure that you record your actions and their actions. Keep a record of it. It helps you just be efficient in your business. Okay. So whatever you're doing, document it. Okay. Good documentation goes a long way. Point number 6, maintain an email cadence and call flow schedule. Okay. Are there different ways that you can connect in between some of the more meaningful contacts where you can shoot them a little note? And that can be, like I said, it might be in the form of, hey, do you want to sign up to my newsletter? And you've got something there that allows you to interact with them on a regular basis. Or is there some other form of communication where you can just build a schedule there to make sure that every few days, I'm just keeping in touch and we're keeping the relationship fresh and top of mind, but it's in a positive, reinforcing, delightful, pleasant way. Number 7, really important, evaluate your sales life cycle to measure your effectiveness. So don't just build your list, document everything and follow through, which is great. You've got to make sure if you want your follow-up to be meaningful, that you evaluate your performance and your responses. Are they working well? Are you getting the results you should expect? Or do you find by the time I get to my 3rd contact, I notice that I'm losing their interest, I'm losing their attention. And it's now contact number 4 and 5 is getting really difficult. If that's the case, then you need to look at what content are you giving for steps 1 and 2. Yeah. So evaluate, evaluate, evaluate. And if you're committed to that, then you're really committing yourself to an excellent journey. If you can make sure that you invest time to plan, prepare, document, and evaluate, then you'll find that you're going to continually improve. And then that brings us to our last step, which is, of course, repeat the bits that work. Do them again, right? If you find they're working, step and repeat. Do it again, okay? And that's really what helps us to be effective in our follow-up activities. I hope as I kind of bring this to a conclusion tonight, this has been helpful in giving some insight really in the preparation that is required for effective follow-up. I mentioned at the beginning, and I'll finish on this point, around 7 contacts, in that initial image that I shared. The reality is, in a saturated content information overload world that we live in, that could easily be double. For some people, it might be 14. Some people, it might be 5, depending on the relationship and where they're at in their own journey. Other people, it might be 14, 15, 20 contacts because they just need a little bit more reassurance or trust building, okay? So understand that's the world we live in now, and that requires us to be that prepared and that diligent. But if we do that preparation at the front end, then it will save us a ton of time afterwards so that we're not having to recreate a whole new strategy for every person on every touch point as we go along. You don't want to be inventing the wheel over and over again. Do it once, get that resource planned, get it mapped out, and it will make such a difference to you. So I hope this helps, and I'll pass the time back over to you, Jeff.
Ben, thank you. We've gone through these steps of finding people, inviting them to hear a message or learn more, doing some kind of a presentation or presenting that information, different means, mechanisms, and now following up. So we've gone through these steps, really crucial steps that prepare us for kind of the big moment, which is inviting people to become a customer and purchase product, or to become a consultant and join us in our business to become part of our team moving forward. I'm wondering if before we move into that next step, that kind of crucial question, that crucial moment of inviting that person, if maybe we give people a chance to kind of formulate and ask some questions next time. Ben has a tremendous amount of experience at the senior executive level in network marketing, and of course has experience in the field as well. So kind of is in a unique position, I think, of helping us to understand this process from different perspectives. Would you be interested in having a session next week to ask questions about these first 3 steps? Is that something people would be interested in? So would you think about that as you go through this next week? Think about the finding, the inviting, the presenting, and the following up process, those first steps in the process, in the life cycle of a new customer, a new consultant. And whether that takes a few days or a couple of months, think about those different components and questions you have about them. And we'll let Ben kind of do a Q&A and answer those questions next week. And then we'll follow up with that big moment where we invite them to become a customer or a consultant. Ben, how does that sound?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really good. And one thing that I would say is if you want to ask great questions, then do some meaningful activity this week. Because what you'll find is the questions always come, the best ones, as a result of something you've done. Yeah, and you go, wait a second, I did this and I got stuck, or I did this and I had this outcome or this reaction. Help me understand what to do next. Yeah, I've always found in the mentoring process, the best questions come from those that are actually working versus philosophizing. Yeah, so let's turn this Q&A into a work in progress kind of Q&A gut check time where we can say, this is what I've been doing and I got stuck here. What would you suggest? This is what I was doing this week and I had a great outcome, but I didn't expect this. What do I do as a result? It's what we do that should stimulate the questions. So if you get busy this week, I'm confident it will stimulate some great questions for you.
Sounds great, Ben. Do some finding, some inviting, some presenting, and some following up. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We'll see everyone next week for our Entrepreneurs Being More. Have a great week, everybody.